Welcome back to the Paddle and Fin Podcast Network. We're brought to you by Yak Gadgets. For all your fine quality kayak fishing accessories, go to yakgadget.com. Pelican cases, cooler, and lighter. Go to pelican.com. And the 153 Bait Company. For all your hard and soft bait needs, go to the 153angler.com. Now let's join our special guest around the campfire. Welcome back, everyone. Another episode of Feather and Fur. Your host, of course, Brad Hurlebaus. And tonight we've got on two special guests. We have on Dwayne Radabaugh with Rad Lights and Brian Rush with Rush Custom Collars. And we'll bring them right in, and we're going to be talking predator hunting tonight. How you doing, guys?
Doing good. Thanks for having us.
Yep, thanks for having us. Doing good.
I think it's going to be a real fun episode. This is the first episode that's ever really focused around predator hunting on my podcast. And my podcast is really about all types of hunting, different traditions that revolve with them and everything else. So I'm real excited to get you guys on to talk about a completely different aspect of the hunting world. Don't all talk at once, though.
Say that again?
Yeah. Don't all talk at once, Brian.
Oh, geez.
No,
it was really exciting to have the invite to come out and just, BS with a bunch of good, like-minded people. I'm looking forward to it.
This guy's a genius, so I'm an
tough.
amateur.
We actually had a contest this past weekend, and the no wind chill, but the ambient air temperature was negative 22 on my truck, and we were out till about 5 a.m. Friday night into Saturday.
Nope. Well, Brian, I had another New York incident. It was about 3 to 6 degrees all weekend, and I hunted the last 2 weekends actually. So I had the old icicles on the beard, like up in New York a couple years ago.
The wintertime face coat just felt like it was going to snap right off of your chin. It was brutal. It was brutal.
Yeah, I mean, it's cold here tonight in Wisconsin. We're supposed to get down to 17.
It was a balmy 32 here.
Yeah, that Friday night negative 22, and then the next night it was low single digits, and we were laughing about it. It's like, it's 30 degrees warmer tonight. Like, it felt like a heat wave.
Didn't get above zero, but I'm ready for my shorts.
Yeah, we had a good time though. Just some of those contests that we do, especially a couple of them. We're out predator hunting so much, and yeah, there's financial motive. There is a prize. There is a cash prize. But man, a lot of these contests, we're going to be out hunting. We're going to be doing it anyways. If we didn't enjoy it, we wouldn't do it. But man, just the camaraderie that we have of outdoorsmen, like-minded people, the houndsmen that hunt, the trappers that hunt, the guys that treat it like a white-tailed deer hunt, and they're just bundled up sitting over a bait pile all night. All walks of life, but that camaraderie that we have when we go to that weigh-in and we tell the stories, we have the fun, we crack a beer, we get to just chat with good, like-minded people. It's gratifying and fun just to share those stories with that same mentality.
I mean, that's really what it's all about. I haven't done any of the predator stuff like that, but I've done plenty of fishing tournaments, from kayaks to actual bass boat tournaments.
Oh yeah.
It's the same thing at the end of the day. I mean, you're out there, you're fishing for a reason. You're fishing to try to win, right? I mean, yeah, I'd be out fishing anyways, just kind of like you. But when it's all said and done, exactly, and everybody's sitting around talking, just having a good time, I mean, it's just nice to be around, like you said, like-minded people, sharing stories.
Yep.
Reflecting on the weekend for you, or the day tournament, or weekend tournament. Some of the stuff for us. I mean, it's just a good time at the end of the day.
Oh, for sure. Tell all the frostbite stories.
Or getting attacked by a raccoon.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
I don't know what he was doing. I was ready to shoot that fox, and he come out of the left field and said, "Not today, son." He ran right underneath our legs, and the fox ran away. So
it's funny. It was funny. Dwayne was telling me that story earlier today, and I had the same thing happen Kansas last week when I was out there, and I had eyes on the raccoon in the thermal, and I just kept calling and calling, watching the body language, and like, well, I'm just going to record him, and had a good old time with this raccoon. Next thing I know, I could not cant my gun on the tripod any lower, and I couldn't focus any closer. He was so close that he was out of focus. And I actually had to stomp my feet and almost kick him to get away from me. I thought he was going to crawl up my leg.
That's awesome.
That
I mean,
fun.
those are the stories that you just don't get unless you're going out in the field, right? I mean, that's to me, it's that whole experience, and that experience right there is like the best part about it.
Oh, well, yeah. They say if it's video or picture, it didn't happen. Well, it's going to be on a YouTube channel for Central Pennsylvania outdoorsman here in the next couple days. He got it crawling right underneath my tripod, right by his boot, and just kept on walking. I don't know where he was going.
He didn't know either.
So I mean, this is going to be a predator hunting episode, so let's just jump right into it. Like, for I don't know how many of my listeners have ever been involved in predator hunting or actually looked to see what's going on, because I mean, the deer hunters, every time they see a coyote, it turns into a coyote hunt, right?
Oh,
stuff like that. But we're talking tripods here, and some people are going to be like, what are you guys even talking about? Like, I don't think people are like I know my setup right now is I'm running night vision with a Rad lights, that i2 Pro, and then I'm running I think it's a 36 millimeter ball head on what's basically essentially a camera tripod.
Yeah.
That'll get it done.
Yeah.
And so for the people out there that don't know, like when you're hunting, especially at night, we're standing.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I mean, Dwayne, chime in at any time with this, but I
think I had to teach you that, didn't I, Brian? The one thing that I did teach you.
I didn't have a tripod at the time, and we were trying to pull topographical features in our advantage with bipods, and it didn't produce the numbers, but you got to have a tripod. Nighttime, it's 100% necessity to have that elevation point of view of
and you have to scan nonstop.
Like
your buddies had to learn from me too, because we had 4 of us and I was the only one that seen the coyote.
Yeah, and lights on, lights not on. No,
you probably ran right by your buddies.
Yep. Oh, I'm sure they did.
Something hit that fence hard.
Yep.
Yeah. He said, I can't see it. I said, well, it's right there. I said, you got to stand when you're nighttime hunting.
Oh, 100%.
They can't see you, so you might as well just stand up.
That's running. Not to take away from Dwayne with the lights, but we're running thermals at night, and we've obtained so much trigger discipline to not shoot and observe and watch and listen and react to the body language and see what the animal does. We've busted every old wives' tale in the book on where to stand in a full moon, how to hunt the coyote in a full moon. Coyotes have closer to like 80-20 vision. So at 20 feet, the object looks closer to 80 feet, which sounds completely hypocritical because it's such a cagey animal, but it picks up on movement, and it's solely picking up on that movement in that survival instinct. And those two things at nighttime, that animal has such a false sense of security in the dark. And busting those old wives' tales of standing in the shade, you got a full moon, snow on the ground, you can look at your buddy right next to you and have a conversation with him like it's 12 o'clock in the afternoon. You can see his facial features. You would think you should conceal yourself. We'll walk out into the middle of a cut cornfield, full moon, snow on the ground, find an elevation, and we'll still call coyotes to 100 yards. With no problems. And when I run the game calling seminars that I've done in the past, I'm always explicit in telling an audience, if it happens once, consider it a variable. Don't ever forget about the variable. because it could always happen again. But when you do something over and over and over and over, you gather so much statistical validity with the fact that it's not broke, don't fix it, keep doing it. Don't forget about that variable because it could happen again. So I bring that up to an audience to be explicit in the fact we didn't just do this one time. We're doing this on the regular. So that approach of full moon, the animal's actual vision, picking up on movement, as long as you're not doing jumping jacks in the middle of the field, you have a diligent approach. It's not cornflakes on the ground. It's not crunchy as heck. You can get out there. You can cut the distance, find that elevation, get away from the rolls of the hill. You feel naked, but that animal has such a false sense of security in the dark that it's an absolute game changer if you're willing to put forth the effort to think you're going to screw up and, oh my God, it worked, and just keep doing it.
And the same goes for lights. I mean, you got that. Once that light is on the animal, if you don't ever take the light off, I mean, you know what it looks like when you look in a flashlight. You can't see behind it. So it's the same with the animal. Will you spook animals with lights if they're educated to it? Yes. Coming on and off of the animal a lot will spook them. So while I'm hunting, I'm scanning with my headlight. When I get eyes and I ID that it's most likely a predator, I bring my gun over, but I don't turn the light on while it's like aimed at it. So I aim high, aim low, aim to the left, turn the light on, bring that one while my headlight is still on the animal, and then turn my headlight off. And then I don't ever take the light off the animal unless he moves on his own and I lose him, which at that point it doesn't matter. But he can't see behind you while you're standing, out in the middle of a field. He's not going to see behind that light.
And that makes sense. I mean, at that point, you're also using the light for your concealment.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you watch, there's some YouTube channels out there that show that very, very well, that coyotes that are not educated to lights, like you said, that they will just still keep coming hard right into a light.
Yep. And,
sure.
I mean, there's guys, the night crew, they do the white lights in Texas. But Texas is a state that I'm pretty sure you cannot spotlight for deer. So they don't know what a white light is. Where in Pennsylvania, you got spotters that go out and spot for deer. And if, there's a coyote, they kind of they recognize the white. It's not impossible to kill one with a white light, but red is definitely your go-to.
That makes sense. I mean, and geographical location, different laws pertaining to what you can and can't do at night will all change this as well. I mean, I just want to make like for the listeners out there, just make sure that you actually look at your game regulations to know what you can and can't do at night, or if night hunting is even allowed in your area. I mean, every area is different. So I don't want to make anybody like this isn't just a blanket statement of they're doing this in Texas, you can do it in Wisconsin, because you can't do it in Wisconsin.
Right. We went out Kansas, Missouri, and Pennsylvania. And Dwayne's from Pennsylvania. In the past 2 years, have now allowed the use of artificial light gathering scopes, night vision, and thermal equipment. So those regulations are brand new to those states. And recently, when I went from Texas to Kansas, and I was just out there, a week or two ago, got my non-resident hunting license, and I also had to pay. It was only $2.50, but I'm totally fine with that. It's $2.50 for me to purchase, I believe it was called the Kansas Night Vision Permit. And that allowed me to hunt with my thermal in the state of Kansas, but you have to hunt on private permission grounds only. So there's the WIHA program in Kansas. WIHA, WIHA, stands for Walk-in Hunting Area. So basically, simplifying this, government pays landowner a stipend to allow walk-in hunting, and it allows private land to become public land. for an allotted season, an allotted time frame for specific species of animals. They can put regulations on it: shot shell only, archery only. So you just have to look at the regulation, but you can't use that nocturnal permit on weehaw properties. It's strictly only private permission. And fortunately, I have plenty of family in Kansas, so it was worth taking the time and taking the trip when we were passing through to, exhaust the time, energy, and effort to do it. And we were successful. We had a great time.
That's awesome. And it's nice. I mean, I don't have a problem with paying a little bit more for a license as long as it opens up more opportunities.
Absolutely. And like a state like Kansas that treats their big game herd like a cash crop. I mean, I don't want to down talk my state, but I live in New York, and I'm always explicit, and I always tell people I live in upstate New York. I don't live in the concrete jungle. You can walk out my back door. There's woods, there's agriculture. It's not downstate. I live in upstate New York. And our regulations here, not many people. I think I'd be safe in saying this. If you lived in the Midwest, you're not coming to New York to hunt deer. So, being a resident of New York, it's very attractive to us to go to the Midwest to hunt a species of animal that's actually considered a cash crop for that state. And when it's treated like a cash crop, yeah, you're gonna expect to pay for something like what it's called the Kansas night vision permit. It associates my name on paper, and now there's a paper trail associated with my name, and it leads me to believe it's to help protect their cash crop. Something as simple as that. And it's just a way to keep people honest.
Yeah, and maybe like Wisconsin's got some interesting regulations when it comes to night hunting. We're not allowed to shine with a light.
Okay.
We only can use a light to ID a target at point of kill, which means you already have to know an animal's there.
Right.
So, like for me, because I never really got it, like I never had a nighttime setup other than basically a flashlight, and I would hunt moonlight. And as soon as I would see movement, I could hit it with a light.
Right.
But until I saw that movement, I couldn't. So it wasn't until this a couple months ago I decided to take this dive, and I'm like, all right, what's the cheapest way for me to get a most effective night hunting setup for my state? And that was I went with a Wraith 2x16 night vision with the Rad's IR light, and I went with an AGM TM160 thermal monocular because I can scan with thermal because it doesn't use a light.
It doesn't project a beam of light. And it's kind of like if you guys know the answer to this, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the same thing in Vermont, if I'm not mistaken. You can't hunt at night with anything that projects a beam of light, but you can use night vision, but technically your IR projects a beam of light, so you're legally bound to not use an IR with your night vision in Vermont. That's just leading to mistakes and species misidentification and nothing good to happen, written by legislation that that's a recipe for disaster.
See, and I can use IR once I know there's a target there. So that AGM, that TM160, not the greatest thermal, probably the most entry-level thermal there is.
Yeah.
But all I need to do is see a heat signature move or come into picture. And then I can throw on that bright IR light in my scope. And from that point on, it's legal because I knew an animal was there. So
can you do the same with red?
You can do the same with red as long as you're scanning not scanning with a light.
Yeah, and that's that is a huge gray area of discretion if anything were ever questioned by any form of law enforcement. That's tough. That's really tough.
And that's why I went with the thermal. That's why it doesn't matter what light, but that's why I wanted to make sure I had some sort of thermal, because then I can say I'm using this to scan. Because there's people that are like, well, I can just say I thought I saw something, and I can turn my light on and turn it off, and turn my light on and turn it off, Man, that's a gray area. I know what you're saying, but that's going to be really warden interpretation. And
I couldn't believe it when you told me that story.
Yeah, that's
doesn't make any sense to me. It's usually either you can
tough.
or you can't use light.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can use it at point, but I mean that is nice. I mean, at least I have the ability to use a light. I mean, because like in Vermont, you're saying you can't even technically use a light at all.
You know, unless something changed between now and the last time that I stepped foot in Vermont, and you know, me not hunting in Vermont, but with colleagues and friends of mine that were hunting actively in Vermont, and they told me this, and I just kind of shook my head, thinking, you're allowed to use thermal, you're allowed to use night vision, but you're not allowed to use anything that projects a beam of light. But under definition, your IR is projecting a beam.
Right.
That's a recipe for disaster.
Does it say that you can't project a beam of light that is visible?
No,
it's under definition.
I mean, every state just has their quirks, I guess. I mean, Pennsylvania, you can hunt coyotes 365 days a year. You can hunt fox, raccoons, skunks, all your other fur taker stuff from mid-October till mid-February.
Yep.
But you cannot hunt raccoons, skunks, possums on Sundays. But you can trap and kill them on Sundays. So, I mean, at midnight on Saturday, technically, if you're out hunting and you have a raccoon in your truck, you should probably take it all the way home, even if you're an hour away.
Yeah,
that's just one of the weird laws.
Yeah.
I always wonder. I'd always love to know where those date back to. Like, what's the reason for those specific species you can't hunt them on Sundays? Like, what? Like, I'd love to know the reasons.
Oh, go ahead, Dwayne.
Well, Maryland's another one. Maryland is overrun with fox. And you can't. Their season is from November 1st till February, or just January 31st. So their season is shorter than ours, but they cannot hunt fox on Sundays, but they can hunt deer on Sundays.
Huh.
The no Sunday hunting blows my mind because there's nothing like that in Wisconsin. Like, if the season's open, it doesn't matter what day it is. Like, we don't close seasons on a certain day.
Same thing in New York.
We can't hunt deer on Sundays either.
You can't on Sunday.
Only they started doing 3 Sundays a year.
You told me that. That's right.
Yeah. Archery season ends, and that last Sunday you can hunt. The next weekend is bear season. You can hunt on a Sunday, and then the first Sunday in deer rifle season. So deer used to come in, rifle season used to come in on the Monday after Thanksgiving. Now it comes in the Saturday after Thanksgiving. But you can hunt Saturday, Sunday, Monday, all the way till next Saturday, and the following Sunday you can't hunt.
Gotcha. Jeez, we have just a stone throw west of here. We have a high Amish population, and there's a lot of Amish tracts of land that we hunt on, and it actually worked out really well for us. Going to Amish farms, introducing ourselves to the landowners, letting them look through our scopes, and they're just fascinated with the thermal technology. And we give every landowner we step foot on, I give the same disclaimer to. It's not our property. We'll treat it like it's our own. By no means do we give anybody else permission to hunt your land. It's going to be us alone, with your blessing if somebody can accompany us, only while we're present. And we will never step foot on your property on Sundays. Because Amish, the Amish Mennonite as well, I believe, religion is their day of rest being on Sunday. And soon as they hear that we won't step foot on their property on a Sunday, that goes a long ways. On their day of rest, that we won't encroach onto their day.
I live near a lot of Amish and Mennonite, and I always leave it up to them. Some of the Mennonites, they're more relaxed. And they want them gone because of their deer, so they don't care about Sundays. Some say no Sunday night, but like if I'm out hunting Saturday night and it turns into Sunday, as long as I'm gone by daylight.
Right.
Sunday morning, they're good.
Yep.
I always just leave it up to them. I'm like, it's your land. I will follow whatever rules, during deer season, whatever you guys want.
Of course. Then we go back to the one landowner at the end of the season and tell them we took a half a dozen coyotes or a dozen coyotes or 2 or 3 off of the one property. And they're always ecstatic. They're always ecstatic, trying to, knock numbers down when we legally can. Because New York, we have it's basically 6 months out of the year, October 1st until the last Sunday of March. So October, November, December, January, February, almost damn near the full month of March is half of the year. And then for the rest of the year, it's completely closed, daytime and nighttime.
But your fox season is much shorter.
Yeah, our fox season is, I can't quite remember when that starts. Mid-October. It really coincides with yours.
Oh, I think it's a week after ours.
Yeah, something like that. And then it closes like third week of February, something like that.
Yeah.
Something real close to that.
That's real similar to our fox season here. I don't remember the dates directly off the top of my head, but coyotes are unprotected. 365 day or night, doesn't matter in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Skunk, possum, the devil spawn, those as well. Now I can't think of their actual name because I always call them a devil spawn.
What is that? I was going to say, what is that? Oh, porcupine?
I'm a bird hunter, man. I mean, those are the spawn of the devil when it comes to a dog.
Oh, yeah. For sure. No, yeah, we don't have too much of an unprotected, but yeah, woodchuck, porcupine, red squirrel, chipmunks. I mean, basically varmints.
Sure. So Dwayne, because I know you're a little more time crunched here with work, because you're a working man tonight.
Yep, I'm in the truck. With the life of a truck driver. You can see my nice comfy digs that I get to sleep in.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you got going on with Rad Lights?
When I got into the predator hunting game, which was about 8 years ago now, I started out slow, went with people, saw what they used, looked them up, saw how pricey a flashlight can be. I'm a budget hunter. I don't buy top of the line stuff. My first light for my gun was literally a $10 eBay light from China. I bought 2 of them, one mounted to the gun, the other one I zip tied to the mesh part of a truck driver hat, and that was my scan light. And it worked. I could see like 50 yards. Didn't really ever see much. I was starting to think fox and coyotes were a myth. Never seen one deer hunting. Never seen them deer hunting. Never seen them when I went out after them. About 3 seasons went by. Now I'm talking I went out 3 times a year. I finally went on my own. I borrowed a call from a buddy. I got in a contest. Went by myself. Sat up in a little orchard with a little hill in front of me, a patch of woods in the bottom. Started calling, and before I knew it, there's 2 bright red things coming running right at me. It took me like 10 seconds to even realize what it was. It happened so fast. He came up, one apple row tree in front of me, went to the call, saw that it was a call, said, "Oh crap." Tried to run away, and I smacked him with the shotgun at like 8 feet. I blew up my buddy's phone at like 2:30 in the morning, and I was so ecstatic. I was like, I finally got one. And from that point on, I was hooked. Saved up, bought a entry-level Predator Tactics light and a elusive wildlife headlight. And I'm pretty good at tinkering with stuff, so I found some unbranded flashlights on eBay or Amazon. I can't even remember now. And they were in white. I bought some pre-LED bulbs, soldered them in, figured out what pins to solder to make it so that it didn't have modes and it just was on and off. tested them out. They were just as good as my $125 Predator Tactics light, and the headlight that I came up with was the same idea, and it was just as good as the one that I bought. So I was like, well, and everybody said they turned out great. I made it for my dad so he could come along, and they said you should look into making them. So that's how Rad Lights was born. We've come a long way. Those lights were probably 100 to 150 yards of ID, and our new light in red, anywhere from 350 to 500, depending on how good your scope is and how the terrain that you're hunting, how much light is going to get bounce back to you. Obviously, if you have more woods and stuff to throw it back at you, it definitely looks better and can bring more light back to your scope, the quality of your scope. But I can light reflectors up at 900 to 1,000 yards all day long with both our headlight and our gun light. We've come through the original lights, and then we went to I found a company that could mass produce, and I built them the way that I wanted, with all the different features that I wanted. And now we're up, fast forward to this year, our gun light is 66 millimeter head, so it's just as big as a lot of the other top names in the industry. Has the dimmer knob on the regular cap, has a remote dimmer switch that actually can be disconnected to change the batteries. Both lights are fully dimmable and zoomable, so they both have rheostat. The headlight has the rheostat on the side. It's zoomable, and the price point. I mean, that's where we are a budget-friendly company. Our gun light kit is $104.99, free shipping. You get a light, halo shield, the clamp, the remote switch, 2 batteries, and it only takes 1 with a dual wall charger. Then our headlight comes with the light, halo shield, 4 batteries. It takes 2, and they last about 3 to 4 hours on high straight run time. So you can hunt all night with the 2 sets of batteries. And the headlight is $84.99. So you can get both of our lights for the price of what a lot of the very big name companies sell just their gun light for, and the quality and the performance and the functionality of our light is right there.
And I'm I gotta chime in. I'm biased because Dwayne's a friend, and I've known Dwayne for a couple of years now. I live in New York, he lives in Pennsylvania, but it's no BS what Dwayne's saying. Like his product that he has is right up there with the competitors, and he's not paying. You're not paying an arm and a leg for it. And as an entry level on a budget, 100 freaking percent, his product is going to go right up there and tell the test
limited lifetime warranty, just like the big guys. If anything goes wrong, other than if you drop it in a lake, run it over with your truck, and I'll still probably help you out just because that's what I do. I had a guy just get a brand new headlight the other day, and he called me, and I guess he was out messing with it, and the dog started doing something, and he started yelling at the dog, and the headlight slipped out of his hand and hit the corner of the concrete on the porch and shattered. Well, it broke the lens, but it was still held together and usable. But I just sent him a new lens. I mean, I was like, it happened. No big deal. I've had a couple of that, but we try to do what we can to help people get into the sport. Brian, he ordered my lights at first with green, and then when I came up to hunt with him and he saw the red, I think you were like, yeah, I need red, Brian.
Yeah.
If I think, you saw the difference in the red, and excuse me, but yeah, I mean, we've been in business now for 4 years, and we're growing every day. I'm looking at doing some more things in the industry as well. When I see a need for something, I like to, like I said, tinker, find ways to build stuff. So I'm looking at a lot of guys who run. We were talking about tripods. I'm hoping to be able to come out with a ball head and then have somebody manufacture basically like Delrin bushings, so you can take the head off of your bog pod death grip, and with these bushings they'll line the bolt that will come with the kit center, and then you can screw an actual ball head of your choice or our ball head right on it. And the ball, everybody, I have not used the ball head yet. Everybody says they're the bee's knees. We'll see. If I feel like it's a need and there's people out there that want them, I think Bog is coming out with a ball head version of their death grip or a tripod, but I'm sure the price is going to be pretty pricey, up in the upper $200, $300. And if people already have a bog pod, there's an option, so that you can just buy a kit for like, $50, $60 with a ball head, and there you go. You're rocking and rolling with an already proven sturdy tripod. The bog pod, I love them so much that I actually have two, because one's for me and one's for my daughter. Because when she goes hunting, I have to move my legs, and I hate moving them because then I have to try to figure out how to get them back to the right height for me. And so I was like, well, Santa's going to bring you a bog pod too, because she absolutely loves predator hunting. She gets mad at me when I don't take her out. So she's 2 for 2 so far. She killed one last year and she killed one this year off the bog pod at 75-ish yards, and like I'd say 100 to 110. She shot a deer off of her bog pod. Just a great entry level budget. They're like $125 a lot of times on Amazon. I've shot a fox. We actually doubled up on her first fox. 2 came in. I'll never forget it. I took her out like 6 times, didn't see anything. I was starting to get frustrated. I went to a farm where I knew they were, had her watching the way that they come. Normally I watch the back door. And I told her, I said, if something comes, I'm not looking towards you, so you need to get a hold of me without talking. And I said, just tug on my shirt. Well, we're calling for about 5 minutes, and all of a sudden my shirt is about getting ripped off of my body. And she's like, there's 2. And I said, okay. And she's like, well, which one do I shoot? I said, well, whichever one comes in. And the female ended up coming in first. I said, are you ready? I stopped it. She shot. The male decided to hang out, and she was shaking. So she's like, I don't think I can shoot that one. It was like $125. So I got down on the tripod, set up for her, leaning way down, and she's only 12. And I shot that other one off the bog pod. And I'm a firm believer in spending a little money on a tripod, because some of the flimsy $20 ones, they can, if you're not steady. I'm getting older and I'm just not steady anymore. And I think I missed 11 the season before I got my bog pod, and then I went a perfect 9 for 9 the season with my bog pod. So,
and not only that, you got that financial investment sitting on top of whatever tripod that you have, and you don't want that going for a tumble.
No, exactly. But yeah, it's been a ride, and we're growing. Like I said, every day. I think we're up to 1,750 followers. I try to do. I donated probably at least to 12 different hunts, some really big hunts in New York and Ohio. The deer ASIC that's coming up. We have a headlight and a gun light there. I've donated to people that are doing hunts for firehouses, and I just donated today actually to a guy for a place that raises money for scholarships out in Kansas. So we're small, but I do what I can to give back, and I'm very blessed to have the following that I have, and we're trying to grow, and it's not my full-time job. I'm out here trucking 6 days a week, coming home, building halo shields. I build all the halo shields in-house. I do have to give a shout-out to my wife. She is a blessing. She is the back office person. She takes care of all the packaging, shipping. So if anything gets messed up, you can blame her. But I definitely spend my 1 to 2 days off a week dremeling the hard halo shields for the headlight, heating them, pressing them on. My wife cuts out the neoprene ones, and she uses a heat press to press the logo on. So it's a team partnership, but we have lights in a lot of states, and I think I think it was like 2 weeks ago we thresholded the $20,000 in sales for the first time.
Nice work. That's awesome,
bud.
And I mean, your pro gun mount light is phenomenal. I really like it. It works great. The adjustability is there was no problem bringing that IR light right in centered with my scope. I mean, nothing at all. It was great.
And it doesn't move. It doesn't have that wiggle. You can get the same kind of clamp or the mount on Amazon, and that's what I had before we came out with ours. And it's very similar, but there is a good bit of play. Like there's enough play that at 100 yards you can almost move the light completely out of your scope. And I run red light still. I don't have night vision, nor do I think I will get night vision. Not a big fan of going from red to that. And
sure.
I shot a fox in Maryland over the weekend at 225 yards with a 204 with a night vision, a wraith on it, and zoomed in that much. Every little movement, again, I'm not steady, and even on the bog pod, and it was just, I killed it, but it was, it definitely took me. Luckily, it was just curled up, so taking a nap. So it took me a while to get on it, and then I'd lose it, and then it was I'm just not a big fan of the looking at a screen.
I mean, it is definitely something different. I mean, you're not looking through glass. It's you're looking at a miniature TV screen. It definitely does take some getting used to.
And then we got Mr. Thermal down here. I'm still gonna get him to go out light hunting one of these nights. When I come up there, I'm gonna come up and I'm gonna say, leave that thermal in the. Bring it along for scanning, but let's shoot him with some red lights, man. Let's go back to the good old days. And the other thing is meeting people in this industry. I met Brian. I don't even remember. How did we actually meet?
There, if memory serves me right, there was donations being made to raise money for some kid for something. I don't remember what.
Yes. My field staff guy whose house burnt down. That's right. And I saw
something like that. You were raising money, and I was like, heck, I'll throw in some game calls. Donate them to whoever, and just trying to bring in a few bucks for a good cause. And you just recognize good, like-minded people in need.
Yeah, we raised, and this is when I was actually in business. And I reached out to a lot of major light brands and Fox Pro, they've been a lifesaver. They sent my buddy, he just bought a brand new call when his house burnt. And he was a field staffer of mine, like my third field staff guy. And his house caught on fire and his call got burned up. All my lights got burned up. It did not happen because of my lights. It was a chimney fire. No. Yeah, it was a chimney fire, and good dude, veteran. So I reached out to Fox Pro, and Mike Dillon actually sent him a brand new Fox Pro Fusion. Got some local call makers to make calls. I got, some other big name lights, and even if I told everybody exactly who I was, and they had no problem with it. Everybody in this industry has been great. We ended up raising like $2,600 for my buddy. Plus, he got the call, and I replaced all his lights and all that stuff. So we got him going again. And but yeah, we met, and then this guy here, he super hospitality, and his wife too. Got to put a thank you out to his wife. Let me come up, stayed the whole weekend, and guy put me on my first coyote. Probably could have had two, but somebody was sitting down beside me and didn't see it, and I didn't want to shoot over top of them. And but it was a good time. They are definitely way more in shape than me. Lots of walking, and 3 degrees outside the whole weekend. And then it snowed. Yeah, it snowed, and then we spent a good time up at a gun club and eating some good alligator and deer and all kinds of good food and just having a good time. So I didn't get to hunt as much as I wanted, but I already had my dog in the truck, so I was more than happy. And I didn't even get to use my light to kill the dog.
Yeah, daytime
it was
calling.
At dusk. Yep, daytime calling where we got to sit down or kneel down, and
yep.
And I got to see how they do it, which I don't like kneeling down. My knees start to get tight after 15 minutes of that. My legs fall asleep, and standing is also is my cup of tea.
So speaking of calls, Brian, you're a custom call maker. So I got to ask, like, when you're out in the field, are you a hand call guy? Go ahead.
Let me hop off. I appreciate the invite. This guy, he's the expert. He's going to be able to tell you anything you need to know about predator hunting, deer hunting. His calls are awesome. I mean, he'll take care of you. He'll put all kinds of stuff in them calls. They are just phenomenal calls. He just anything you can think of. I'm sorry, I'm standing there. You can't even see me. Anything you can about think of, he can do. Didn't you do some pine cones with resin and
just stabilize some pine cones?
There's not just some crazy design.
So before you jump
all the
off,
craziness.
Before you jump off, Dwayne, how do we find Rad Lights? What's the website?
We're on Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok as of now. And our Facebook, just type in Rad Lights and you'll find us. The website is for ordering is www.radlightsllc.com. Rad Lights on all the social media pages. And
got it. That's
where'd
easy
Brian
enough.
go?
He had to jump off real quick. That's all right.
And then
so people know it's RAD for Rad Lights. It's RAD.
Yep. Sorry. RAD and then lights with an S at the end of it, llc.com. Is the website. It's fully functional. You can order and put all your information and pay, and we ship priority mail. So a lot of people really like how fast they get stuff. Priority 2 to 3 day. How long it took you to get yours? Couple days.
I think I had it in 2 days. Like it was there. Yeah. It was there way quicker than I thought. And it would ship. I think you had it shipped the very next day.
Yep, we usually ship the next day as long as it's doable. Some days my wife works while the post office is. We even get stuff out the same day if it's a day that my wife is home, because she's part time. So if it's a day that she's home and you order by 3 p.m. Eastern, a lot of times she'll take it right to the post office then.
Very nice.
But Brian's calls, like I said, they're great, and they it's not just some crazy weird design that looks amazing. He makes them fit your hand. Very ergonomical that way. There's a big word for you, Brian. I always joke with Brian. He has these big words that sometimes I feel like I'm talking to a lawyer when he says some of these.
Yeah.
What is that one word?
I may look blue collar redneck, but I'm educated blue collar redneck. That makes me dangerous.
There's one word or one term you use a lot, and I've said to you about it before, and I can't remember what it is now. Remember the last time we were talking? It's some big word. I'm like, man, you got to start speaking in dumb to me or something. But super good dude.
It was symbiotic.
That was it. See, he just uses these words in like everyday conversations, and I'm like, when you called and asked if I want to do this podcast, I'm not much of a speaker, and I've talked to Brian enough that when I'm listening to him, I feel like I'm in college and I'm listening to a professor. So, but he's still a fun, down to earth dude, and he lives backwoods. Like, I mean, you have a tractor, and you have your own sawmill and all that. Like, and it's not new stuff. It's old, needs work and fixing it and everything. And he's a all around guy, but he will teach you anything you need to know. And you guys need to have him back on for another. I mean, he is a game call expert, and that's in lots of different areas, not just predators. So. All right, guys, have a good night. I appreciate it.
You too. Thanks for joining us, Dwayne, and then everyone else. Remember, Rad Lights. All the information's here. I'll put some links up on the podcast as well. So.
Yep, radlightsllc.com. So. See you,
Drive
Brian.
safe, man.
Safe travels, bud. Be safe.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
For someone who says he's not a talker.
Oh yeah. No, Dwayne's always fun to chat with. It's life's been really hectic lately with the business and traveling. I don't talk to Dwayne nearly as much as I used to, nor do I talk to him as much as I'd like to recently. But it's always fun to catch up with him. He's a good, solid dude, and just a genuine, nice person. He's a good human being.
And I mean, I reached out to him because I had some questions about his lights, and he was like, give me a call. I'm like, all right, shot him a call. We talked about the podcast quick, and I'm like, give me the rundown of your lights, give me the whole thing. And for just wanting to knowing that I'm looking at my setup I did as predator hunting isn't my first passion, right? So I didn't want to have a ton of money wrapped into a night setup, but I wanted to
completely understandable.
Get something way better than just that stock IR that came with that Wraith. So I wanted something high quality, but the budget guy in me is like, what are you going to get out? A dozen times a year, maybe? This isn't your first priority. How much do you want to stick into it? And I saw his lights, and I saw the reviews, and I saw the videos. I'm like, man, this guy's keeping it budget friendly for us guys that don't want it's not our first thought when we wake up in the morning. We're not let's go shoot some dogs today. And there's with how passionate you seem you are about it, and I've seen you on the social media, the numbers you put down, it shows the experience, the time in, it's just
we've definitely put boots on the ground and spent a lot of time over the years doing what we do, and obviously we wouldn't do it if we didn't enjoy it, but we definitely put time in.
And then you got your call line, and it's not just predator calls. I mean,
I cover.
Give everyone the rundown.
Yeah, so basically, I'll try to keep the whole long story short, but I used to work full time for a municipality. I was the senior most heavy equipment operator for a highway department. I was also the acting working crew leader of the highway department. And I got fed up with the dynamic of public employment and didn't want to do it anymore. My wife, bless my wife, and just like Dwayne said, without the support of my wife, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing today. And she said, quit, just resign. And what am I going to do? How am I going to support my end of the bills? We have 2 little girls. We have a new house that I built. And how are we going to make ends meet? She's a school teacher. She's tenured. We went on her insurance, and that summer I took a hobby of mine and tested the waters and went to the Northeast Outdoor Show down in Dutchess County. I met Peter Fiducia, who is known throughout North America as the deer doctor. He blew into my grunt tube, and it was a look that I'll never forget when a man known throughout North America as the deer doctor, have you ever heard of the book, The Shooter's Bible Guide?
Oh yeah.
So Peter's written 3, if not 4 of the Shooter's Bible Guide. and he blew into my grunt tube, and he looked like a kid that just opened up his favorite thing he was looking forward to on Christmas morning. And he said, "You built this?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I get grunt tubes shipped to me from all over the country, from call builders, manufacturers." And he said, "This is the most authentic sounding deer call I have ever heard." And what a pat on my back. Right. So I gave him that call as a gift from me to him, and he featured me in 2 pages of a chapter on authentic whitetail communication and his latest rendition of the Shooter's Bible Guide. So right off the rip, I felt like I established my credibility in the whitetail calls. And 3 months into starting my business, I was getting paid by Dick's Sporting Goods. I had a retail line that I was selling within my local Field and Stream. Present day, I'd rather beat my head against the wall than deal with corporate America, Dick's Sporting Goods. So I'm no longer selling in Dick's Sporting Goods anymore.
That's understandable.
It was no hard feelings against anybody, but the contract was about this thick, and I'm an independent sole proprietor, and the shoe didn't fit. So couldn't do it. But it was awesome to hit that credibility 3 months into my business and sell orders. They were filled, had a reorder that was filled, had another reorder that was filled. And then they wanted me to become a regional vendor for Dick's Sporting Goods. And I'm one dude, I'm one guy. Right. And it was too much for one person to carry. Went from that. I just met, like I said before, just so many good, like-minded, amazing people. And it was perfect timing and this perfect storm of just not being happy. I didn't want to be your statistical municipal employee that was wishing their life away, that couldn't wait for retirement. And I didn't want to do it anymore. And just honestly, because of my wife and, having the balls to just walk away from almost 20 years of employment with a municipality. It was a tough decision, but I'm very humbled, and it's very gratifying to do something that I enjoy, something that I love. Met a great group of guys, Downwind Outdoors, Andy Delavaneri from Downwind Outdoors. He's really like my partner in crime, love him like a brother. And, we hunt Illinois every year together. They have a phenomenal, and I'm honestly going to say second to none YouTube channel on daytime predator hunting here in northeastern New York, up here in upstate. So that's great credibility that I'm their call builder. I film and hunt with Gus Congemi. He's the host of Live the Wildlife TV on Sportsman's Channel and the Pursuit Channel. So I've done some filming with them. I've done some hunts with them. It's awesome exposure for me, for the business, and content for the show, exposure for me. And then also collaborated with the gentleman, Dennis Gilmore, and he's got a website, thepredatorhunter.com. And his target audience is the novice. And that's, probably something you want to talk about a little bit more in depth is the novice predator hunter getting into the sport, budget friendly. And Dennis really hit the nail on the head with his website, thepredatorhunter.com, on budget friendly, different tactics. And his goal, something that he told me that I'll never forget, I love it. He wants to go 1 inch wide and a mile deep with information. So it's just really specific topics and talking about those key topics of, not coyote hunting in general, but coyote hunting during a full moon or coyote hunting during the month of February, like really specific topics. Sure. And then he breaks it down into different articles. So he's got some really, really good information that we've collaborated on. Yeah,
that's a bit, it's overwhelming. I haven't been doing this very long. I did it a couple 10, 15 years ago, I got into it, and I was doing it pretty hard. I called in a couple of dogs. Didn't have the right equipment to ID them real well. I mean, it's full moonlight over lakes, trying to frozen lakes in Wisconsin, right? And I'm like, is that a coyote? Is it not a coyote? Both times I was hesitant, just didn't pull the trigger because I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know, right? And I've never once claimed to be like, I've never shot a coyote yet. Not out of deer season. Like, that's never anything I've ever done. I'm trying, but I'm a novice, and that's another reason I wanted to have you on and Dwayne on, because like I said, I wanted a budget-friendly setup that I can get out there and have confidence in to start to build that. Yeah. To start to build my confidence in this. Because predator. I mean, you're hunting a predator. I mean, this isn't game. This isn't prey.
It's amazing. I mean, for me especially, because I take nothing, I turn it into something, and build a game call out of it to manipulate a wild animal to do what I want. And I want them to read the script. And what an awesome feeling for me to be able to do it. But it's way more gratifying when I get the phone calls, I get the pictures, I get the feedback. Hey, this is what happened. What should I do different next time? And just hearing every single breakdown from, guys in New Mexico or South Dakota or Kansas or anywhere, I think I really should have taken a push pin across the country and how many different states. I think I shipped multiple international up to Alberta, British Columbia. There were definitely some out of country orders this year, and it's great how the business has just grown over the past couple of years. And I've only been doing this full time, and I'll say professionally, because I'm making a living from doing it.
Right.
But it's paying the bills. It's paying the bills. So it's definitely been really gratifying.
When you can turn that passion and the hobby into a career, it just makes going to work every day a little easier.
Going to work for me, I wake up in the morning and I open the garage door, and I literally, it sounds corny to say it, but I drive my truck out of the garage, down the driveway to my shop, and park in my backyard in front of my shop. And the only reason that I do that, because if anybody's passing by, oh, Brian's truck's in front of the shop, that means he's home in the shop. And that's the only reason my truck sits there. If anybody wants to stop by, and that happens more frequent than not. And then I wind up having BS sessions like this for a while.
It's your open sign. Putting your truck in front of the shop is your open sign.
No, it's totally just having like a neon open sign, like free beer, come on in.
Right.
But just the whitetail calls, waterfowl, turkey. Dennis and I were talking recently, and you've got a larger fowl background, if I'm not mistaken, right? Bird hunting.
Correct. That's where my I started with waterfowl hunting, which led into upland hunting for grouse specifically. Those are really what I chased the most.
Okay. We're actually going to do a little collaboration on this sometime, not too much longer from now, but the dynamics of vocalizations and communicating and calling coyotes to the novice. If you took your deer hunter and your turkey hunter, both of them are novice going into the predator woods, I would 100% guarantee your turkey hunter is going to make the easier transition to becoming the successful predator hunter, just due to the patience level and the dynamics of vocalizations. Where the deer hunt, and honestly, the only difference between the two is this right here. Your deer uses its nose, your turkey uses its vision, it uses its audibles, and you're really not taking the wind into consideration as much, but as the hunter, knowing that you need to take that into consideration. But the dynamics of vocalizations and patience of your turkey hunter definitely is going to prove more of a effective method in making that transition, I would imagine.
Interesting to hear that. I mean, but it makes sense though. I mean, there's far more vocalization. I mean, there's deer calls, right? I mean, people use vocalization.
Yeah.
But I mean,
and, you know, like
birds, turkey hunting, waterfowl.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different vocalizations that the animal ultimately is going to make, and like the clicking of a buck, the grunting of a buck, the tending buck of a grunt, the tending grunt of a buck, and you know when to use these calls, the different times a year you should do them, when you should get aggressive with them, and it's also knowing like the dynamic of how the actual species operates throughout the course of time through the progression of a season. I mean, coyotes in general right now, I mean, we what makes us killers and makes us so successful chasing coyotes is our patience level, and something I think I said before, our trigger discipline to not shoot, and how much time we've spent having a visual, watching the animal, watching what it does in its natural environment. How do they respond to an audible stimulus? And basically, you know, from one of the seminars that I did, explaining it this way, where you have an audible stimulus, and how is that animal going to react to that particular audible stimulus? And we're targeting coyotes in this example. So my opinion, and I don't even want to say it's my opinion, but I want to say fact of the matter, because this is something we watch over and over and over and over. And like I said before, if you can do something repetitively, you add so much statistical validity with this is how it works. You contact the animal audibly. So the first thing that happens is you start the conversation audibly. They hear it. You pique their interest, and they break the sanctuary of cover. Wherever they're coming from, they heard you. Now the second thing that happens is they heard it. Now they want to see it. You had a diligent approach. You got to an area where you have a topographical advantage, whether it's daytime or nighttime. So that animal is now going to break the sanctuary of cover. It heard you. Now it wants to see you. So the number one thing that you need to keep in mind when hunting the animal is which way is the wind blowing. And if you watch any Joe the Pro on YouTube, in your opinion, Brad, what are they going to tell you? Which way does the wind need to be blowing? If you want to be successful, which way do you think the wind should be blowing?
Away from you. I mean, from everything I've read and seen, they're going to try to get downwind of you.
Correct. So
I mean, if I was going to be set, like, and now I'm a novice, I really don't know what I'm doing.
Okay.
I'm going to probably try to play more of like a crosswind scenario, knowing that they're going to try to get downwind of me, giving me visibility.
That's one of the best answers I could ever possibly get. I hear way too often, I watch way too often, and I just type in just random YouTube. And the one thing that it's like really poor unsolicited advice where I hear somebody say, you never want to hunt with anything but the wind hitting you in the face. If the wind's hitting you in the face, you have this and everything forward in your field of view. I don't have eyes in the back of my head. In the order of instinct of what I was saying before, you audibly communicate, you start the conversation. If they heard it, now they want to see it. Now they don't see it, but you've piqued that interest, they're going to want to smell it. So if the wind's hitting me in the back of the head and blowing straight out in front of me, that's probably not a great thing, but it's not the worst thing in the world, because what I just said was they heard it. Now they want to see it. Now instinctually, they're going to want to smell it. So your goal as the hunter is, where do I expect the coyote to come from? If it's going to come out of the habitat that's at 12 o'clock in front of me, that's probably a bad idea for me to set up and call here, because nothing good's going to happen. Now, if my habitat is over here at 10, 11 o'clock, and I have this wicked open pasture field directly in front of me with nothing, and I can see deer feeding to my right, I can see bedded deer down here. I love seeing deer when I'm calling, because those are extra sets of eyes in the field. If they get up and move, they're getting up and moving for a reason. If I'm calling and there's deer 250, 300 plus yards away, they're not leaving. They're going to stay. Deer are doing deer things. Coyotes do coyote things. And believe it or not, they coexist in the same habitat. They don't live in harmonious environments. They don't sleep in the same bed, but we'll see coyotes mousing in the same field that deer are feeding in. It happens more frequently than you'd believe. They're not in real close proximity to each other, but within a couple hundred yards, all the time. All the time we'll see something like this. So seeing deer in the field is great in my opinion, because it's another set of eyes to give you an indication that something could potentially be coming, because if those deer are running, they're running for a reason. Look behind them. Now in that scenario where the wind's hitting you in the back of the head, it's blowing out into this open pasture field, but you got this wicked thick habitat off to your 10, 11 o'clock. So that order of instinct of survival for what happens with the animal, you contact them audibly, you pique their interest, then they want to see it. You had a diligent approach, you have a topographical advantage. That animal breaks the sanctuary of cover, it doesn't see you, now it wants to smell you. So what that animal does on the regular basis is it's going to cut distance on you, but it's also cutting distance on your downwind. So call it like a 30-degree angle, 40-degree angle, not necessarily a straight diagonal towards you, but it's going to go closer to the downwind, cutting distance on the downwind, but also cutting distance on you a little bit. That's your broadside ethical shot.
Sure.
You can stop the dog. You can put the crosshairs on the shoulder, and that's where you drop the dog.
Sure.
Every time. And that's typically how it works out. Now, the variable, the one thing that you need to prepare for is that one coyote that throws away that survival instinct and just commits to the call and comes bulldozing out of that habitat and just runs right towards you and completely disregards the survival instinct. That's going to be the variable. But statistically, what's going to happen the majority of the time is you contact them audibly, they hear it, and then they don't see it, then they're going to want to smell it. So then you can hunt that diagonal when they want to try to get downwind. So I think the biggest key thing to say is it's not necessarily which way the wind is blowing, but be prepared for the animal to move in the direction of the downwind, and make sure you can shoot the downwind. But as long as your wind is not blowing into the habitat where you expect the animal to come from, that's going to lead to more success.
And that makes sense. I mean, you have to play the wind to your advantage, and that's not just keeping your sets out of a certain area. That also can be setting up. Now, again, take it with a grain of salt, but from what I've been reading, and even like hunting like birds, right? Like waterfowl, like use that wind to your advantage. And I know I think the saying always is, if the wind's in your face, you're in the wrong place, which is pretty accurate. But I mean, there's a lot of times I intentionally hunt a crosswind, especially if there's low cover, because I want the birds looking at the decoys. And if they're landing to like from my 3 to 9 o'clock, they're no longer staring directly at me, giving me a better advantage. So the same thing with like what you're saying with the predator hunting, play the wind to your advantage, keep it out of where you think they're bedded, where their habitat is. But if you can put an open shooting area downwind thinking they're going to go that way, that's going to set you up for a better shot than trying to shoot through a thicket.
Oh, 100%. And, you know, this is something else that I'm explaining from a nocturnal nighttime point of view. As you know, we're hunting in the sanctuary of darkness. And something I said before is that animal has such a false sense of security in the dark. It's mind-blowing what we get away with at night. Like something I said before, we had a full moon, with snow on the ground. We cut distance. We got out into the middle of a cut cornfield. I could look at Andy like I can look at you right now on my iPhone. And like, how can you get away with this? I howl. We hear a response. I kai-eye. We hang out and wait. And here comes the coyote all the way across this 1,000-yard field in just topographical features, edges. We typically know, just because of time and experience of boots on the ground, where coyotes are going to come in and out and travel in and out of these fields. And that's just going to come with time and experience. But how can you get away with this? It blows my mind. Here he comes on the edge of the topographical feature, just a little roll in the hill, stays right on the edge of it, works around the edge, and comes right to us to like 80 yards. That coyote stopped because it heard Andy's gun go click when the safety came off. That's how close it was. I mean, it's just mind blowing. And who would have thought? I mean, I came off of the scope and I could see the coyote, and then I went back on the scope, and I'm like, and this is one of the first times we did it, and then we did it over and over and over and over. It's like, it's unbelievable. But just having that diligent approach to get into the stand to be able to pull that off, you're not going to be able to pull it off if you have visuals and it's crunchy as heck on the ground. I mean, common sense dictates they're going to hear you coming from a mile away.
Right. Right.
And so, as I said before, this is really targeting just nighttime. Now, something really important, I think, to bring up is daytime hunting. And if you're a left-handed or right-handed shooter, and how you're going to position yourself, you know, typically daytime. I mean, this is just us, you know, the environment that we hunt in the Northeast and upstate New York with, you know, some rolls of hills. And I'll compare New York to Illinois, Kansas, Midwest agricultural tracts. I'm making up numbers here, but we have a couple few acres of agriculture to 50 to 100 acres of habitat, cover, timber. Polar opposite in the Midwest, where you have 50 to 100 acres of agriculture to a couple few acres of habitat, cover, timber. So
right.
Northeast, the eastern coyote, hunting the eastern coyote is more like playing whack-a-mole. Where are they going to pop out of? And you got to be prepared for where they're going to pop out of, and being very conscientious of which way that downwind is blowing makes it that much hard. My opinion makes it that much harder for hunting the eastern coyote because of the demographic that we're in. And, you know, me being a right-handed shooter, swinging a gun to my left side is going to be my strong side. Now, if I position myself facing the habitat off to my left and I have a crosswind, I have to move my whole entire lower body to get on that coyote. If I'm at a seated position, if I'm shooting a bipod, not a standing tripod, but a bipod off of my gun. So hunting a crosswind, I'll typically aim as a right-handed shooter with that barrel of the gun pointed relatively in the downwind area, not necessarily right at the habitat. Because like I said before, if that coyote busts out of the habitat, instinctually it's more than likely going to be working its way towards the downwind, which is basically coming to my barrel. But I'm also prepared for that variable of that coyote that just breaks the sanctuary of cover, disregards its sense of security, commits right to the call, and I'm already on my strong side.
Sure, absolutely.
So it's
and waterfowl hunters. Right, and waterfowl hunters should be able to pick that up pretty quick. Like that same scenario, because we do that field hunting all the time. Like I don't ever put my layup lines facing directly where I want the geese to land, or I'm planning on calling them into. I put them at a slightly 45-degree angle towards like 2 o'clock, because I only can swing so far to my left, especially if it's just me or one other guy, or like just a lot of times I hunt solo. I can only swing so far to my left, and I can, if they slide to my right, or slide to the left, now I can't. Now I don't even get an opportunity. I'm sorry, to my right.
It's the same application.
Yeah, same thing. Like,
yeah.
So I mean,
a
lot
of
these
very, very similar.
So like for the guys that are just trying to get into this, that have experience hunting like waterfowl or ducks, or even guys that sit in a deer blind and they have their guns set up so like they can make sure they can get the entire swing of where they're going to be hunting. I mean, all of these same things play right into how you're going to set up for predator hunting.
Oh, totally. You know, I didn't make that correlation before, but it's the complete same scenario to, you know, have the same end result of success in the end. Absolutely.
So I mean, it's just one of those variables that you have to think that plays not only for like your waterfowl hunters or your deer hunt. I mean, it's just another variable that you have to take into consideration when you're trying to set up on the habitat where you're calling.
Oh yeah, you know, and like, you know, I never thought of this correlation before either, but it's like setting your deer decoy up directly at 12 o'clock in front of you with travel paths, wind direction, how you're going to posture that decoy, where you want that decoy to face, but where your tree is in stand is not at 12 o'clock right behind the deer. As a right-handed shooter, I'm probably going to put it at like 2 o'clock on the tree.
Right.
Comfortable seated. I'm right-handed. Do I stand when I'm shooting or do I sit when I'm shooting? It doesn't matter because I'm still at full draw at that angle of where the decoy is. Same exact scenario.
Right. And they're just, I mean, it's just more of that like learning curve all the way through. I mean, it goes for all the different types of hunting. I mean, you're going to make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes setting up wrong and everything like that. The one thing I'm struggling with still, and it's probably the silliest part of it all, but it probably brings the most true. You got to hunt where there's coyotes.
Yeah. You know, spoke with, had a couple phone calls recently, and one of the kids called me up out of state. He was from Pennsylvania. He's been using my calls just this season, and he had a question and asked, do you think it's worth my time going out to try to locate coyotes at night 2 days before a contest because they're entered into a contest? And I said, that can't be wasted effort at all. But I said, what your best scenario is going to be is put boots on the ground. Go in there late morning, midday, go for a walk and find corners, find hedgerows, find tractor paths, find human-made paths, snowmobile trails. Do you have snow on the ground right now? The answer was yes. Do you have state-groomed snowmobile trails? Do you have gas lines? Are there roadways cut? Go for a walk. Go for a walk, look for the tracks, find the most congestion of tracks, and something as simple as that is going to tell you a lot.
Sure.
Agricultural districts, livestock. It sucks to say it, but it happens. There's always a loss of life on cattle farms. Every cattle farm is going to have a cow pile somewhere. You got permission on a cow farm. You have a permission on any sort of agricultural tract of land. If you already have the permission, take the extra couple minutes, find the landowner, find out where the cow pile is. They're there. They're there. Right. We call this the dead of winter for a reason. And during the dead of winter, what and where are those animals feeding on? And sure. that's going to be a huge indication that can be in your advantage.
And I mean, they're going to want the easiest meal possible, right? Most gain for the least amount of spent energy. I mean, they'd much rather go chew on a dead cow that's frozen because they can still rip flesh off a frozen cow. I mean, that's not going to stop anything I've ever seen. Not any type of predator I've ever come across. So are they going to rather go to that or try to chase that rabbit that's screaming at them from somewhere?
It's what's more cost effective for, I mean, the coyote's a hunter, it's a predator, it's also a scavenger.
Right.
And you know, I'll argue with anybody all day long. The coyote is, regardless of how it got here, how it expanded across the country, it's here, it's not going anywhere, it's part of our ecosystem, but it is a very important part of our ecosystem, and they serve a functional purpose. The animal totally serves a functional purpose within our ecosystem, but it's not that 45, 50-pound class coyote that we've been shooting. I want that 2021 edition, that 2022 edition that's going to be born next year. I want them out in the fields mousing and mousing and mousing and mousing. And they're serving a functional purpose. They're a land shark, but it's also, a numbers game and coexisting with that species of animal. And when do you reach that point of enough is enough? And I mean, what we're watching with the thermals, we went out in one night, one unforgettable night last year, and we saw over 100 coyotes in one night. And believe me, I mean, we didn't call that many in. But having species identification based upon body language of deer do deer things, coyotes do coyote things. Every single coyote on earth has ADD and they zigzag all over the place through a field and they can't hold a steady line to save their life. Based upon body language, we saw over 100 coyotes in one night. And it blows our mind what we're able to see when the lights go out with the technology that we have.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, having just that entry level thermal changes so many things. Like it's
huge.
It's just a completely different eye-opening experience.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when we started getting into it, playing with them, I always justified it with I look at the price per hour of entertainment that I have with this one piece of equipment, and I don't have a boat. I don't have a motorcycle. I don't have an ATV, a snowmobile. I don't have any of these other extracurricular activity toys. I have this instead. And the price per hour of entertainment that I have with it is probably cheaper than any of those other items that I listed off on an annual basis.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. So, I mean, it's pricey, but I mean, if you're if you're a predator hunter, like if that's something, it may not be your main passion. Like say your main passion is deer hunting, but like once that season's closed, like your mind is all right, we're chasing dog and you do it hard. I mean, it's like easily worth that investment.
The other thing with the versatility that platform can be used for, if you had a QD mount and you wanted to take the scope on and off the gun, or if you had the financial investment for a thermal monocular, finding the turkey roost, whitetail deer recoveries, looking for deer in the field so you can just get into stand.
Right.
And point A to point B, I know where my tree stand is. I can get there in the dark because I've done it a million times. Are there or are there not deer in my way? If there's deer in your way, it may take me 500 yards instead of 200 yards to get to my stand. But I kid you not, you stay 100 yards away from the deer in the field in the dark, they don't run.
Sure.
So, I mean, just having that thermal equipment to use at your advantage in so many different versatile platforms instead of just predator hunting is an absolute game changer for success.
I'll be honest, the first thing I did was look around my house at how good it was insulated.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, when we went to when we were in Texas, we went on that West Sandhill crane hunt. We were just finishing setting up the A-frame, got all the decoys out. Daybreak is almost there, and you can hear these birds lift off of the roost in unison. And I turn on the monocular and I look and I go, oh my God. And the sky was just white with heat signatures. And you couldn't pass that monocular between 11 guys fast enough because everybody was grabbing it, like just looking at the sky and just in disbelief of how many birds came off of that roost. It was crazy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, man, you're just a wealth of knowledge. We'll definitely you're going to have to come back on another time, and we'll have to.
I'd love to, but
we'll have to pick a topic and focus because I mean, there's just so much wealth of knowledge here, and like with the different calls you have and all that.
No, I had fun. You know, it's hard for me to stay focused on topic when we really just didn't have a topic to discuss because just predator hunting in general is just it's like it's broad. It's a broad topic to discuss.
And everybody that's been listening to my show, my followers, they know it's all over the place. I mean, I don't pick a topic. I just let the show go where it goes. I mean, if we would have went into a complete on the whole thing about sandhill crane hunting, because you just did it, I'd have just let it flow, because it's just two guys sitting around talking, sharing experiences.
Oh yeah,
and stories.
no, this was fun. This was fun. I appreciate the time.
Before I want to give you a little bit here, let everybody know how they can find you. Let them know how they can get, like, look up your calls, whatever you have for social media. I mean, have at it, promote yourself.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Well, my name's Brian Rush. My website is www.rushcustomcallers.com. On Facebook, Instagram. My email address is also able to be found on that website. If I could also plug my buddy Casey Cornwell, he owns Nuggets Night Vision. We're using his thermal equipment. He's based out of Illinois, and Casey's a good friend of mine, and definitely he's been getting a lot of business from good like-minded friends here in upstate New York, watching what we're doing and the numbers that we're putting down using the equipment that he's providing us with. I didn't tell you, but we took 111 coyotes last year in 3 months. We really focused our attention when our deer season closed, and we basically put probably 100 of those 111 down in about 3 months' time. So we were going out almost every night.
I mean, I'm assuming your goal was 100 for the season. Was that a goal you guys set and you just pushed hard to get it?
We actually set 3 goals. First goal was to kill Tripod. He was a 3-legged coyote who was not from our doing, but he was just an elusive little SOB that finally we got him. Killed Tripod. We wanted to kill our unicorn, which I was referring to a 50-pound plus coyote. And last weekend of the season, I shot a 51.4-pound eastern coyote and 100. So we hit all 3 goals last year.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So it's we definitely try not to suck at what we do. We have a lot of fun at what we do, and like I said before, just having the trigger discipline to not shoot everything that we've been watching and learning and teaching ourselves is definitely made us a lot more educated and effective in the field today.
Yeah, that's what it all comes down to experience, especially when you're hunting something that's a hunter itself. I mean, that experience is what sets it apart. Definitely.
No, I remember the old days just sitting out in the field with a hand call and a light, or just hunting all over the full moon and having a goal of 12 coyotes every year. And if I hit that goal, I was excited. And still, I pat guys on the back all the time that, they have a, goal like that, especially in our demographic. It's hard. It's really difficult.
Well, man, I really appreciate you being on. Thanks again. I mean, you left it off your website. Is there any social media you want to list off? We got sidetracked again. I mean, that's kind of how I am too. So.
No, I think I mentioned, my personal Brian Rush on Facebook, but I also have my business page, Rush Custom Callers, on Facebook and on Instagram, and through the website, rushcustomcallers.com, and any contact information that you need. Same thing that Dwayne said. I think I have all the list of the game calls that I build for sale through a Shopify account. So anything that wanted to be picked out, purchased, goes right through that. I get the email notification. And something I didn't even mention, I'm still old school. I hand build everything in my shop with a wood lathe. I don't have a replicator, duplicator. I'm still handcrafting and building everything with caliper measurements, with eyes and hands.
Awesome.
I think that truly defines the word custom.
Agreed. And I'm going to go out on a limb saying you're probably making all your own tone boards and everything as well.
Tone boards? No. I actually found a company that I've been very, very, very happy with tone board quality, sound, and longevity. One of the reeds with the rabbit squealer distress call. So I'm getting sidetracked again. So I referred to it as BPMs, beats per minute. So when the reed goes up and down, it's the vibration that actually makes tone. That's what's making sound, is the vibration. So when you look at one of these little tiny reeds,
sure,
inside of a distress call, how many times that little reed is slapping up and down off of that tone board gets really, really, really aggressive. It's a moving part. Moving parts can fail. Moving parts can break. The only one that I've ever seen break took 8 years to actually fail. And I'll call that a success any day of the week, especially with one of these to fail after that much time with that much aggression. But no, I have built custom calls as requested for matching inserts with tone boards, cutting the own reeds. If there's reed failures, any game call that I build, the reeds are replaceable. So nothing's pressed in where the buyer could not press a reed out and then I would ship a new reed. So it's that none of the game calls are one and done. So you're paying for that financial investment of a beautiful handcrafted game call. If it starts to sound like crap after years, when the saxophone goes bad, when the clarinet goes bad, you don't throw it out, you replace the reed.
Sure. No, that makes sense. No, that's good to know. And it's great. It's awesome. You're still hand turning them on a lathe. That's awesome.
Oh yeah. Yep. No, it's messy. It's fun. I invested in plenty of PPE, safety equipment, dust collectors, masks, glasses. So
that's a huge part of it, man. I've known a couple of, not personally, but through the waterfowl stuff. I have friends that have done competition calling, stuff like that. I've met guys that were turning for years that started to get allergies to, like, especially those exotic woods. Like PPE is a big thought process.
Yeah, that's there's definitely some exotic species of wood that I use that I won't even touch them until I take my dust collector, the filter bag, clean everything out, so I've got perfect ventilation in my work environment before that stuff's emitted into the air. Definitely.
Yeah, it's something people I never would have thought of without talking to them, but just how, I don't want to call it toxic, but I almost say toxic some of these like unique exotic woods are.
Yep, definitely.
When you're turning it, not when you're using it.
Oh, like yeah, when it's friable in the air.
Right, absolutely. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't want people to think, be like, because I know some of that's got a reaction to Cocobolo now, and I'm like, I love Cocobolo. I love the way it looks. My predator calls.
Oh God, yeah, beautiful.
But he can't turn it anymore because he gets allergic reactions. But I'm not going to have an allergic reaction from a fully tuned call, everything like that. So I don't want that to get out there where people are
right.
Oh my God, I can't have exotic wood. I can't put that. Yep. No, it's nothing like that. It's during the manufacturing process, it changes.
Oh, 100%. When that's friable in the air. I did some demolition drywall work with a buddy of mine who's a contractor. If he needs a second set of hands, if I'm free in the day, I'll help him out. And I came home and my little girl, I was clean, but I had the same sweatshirt on. I sat on the couch and my 6-year-old laid up against me. And when she sat up, the whole side of her face, she must have had an allergic reaction to maybe just some of that dust that was on my shirt. And the whole side of her face had this red rash on it. Oh. So yeah, it's who knows what you're going to have a reaction to for sure.
Well, as we got sidetracked again, this episode's going to go 2 hours long if I'm not careful. So we're going to bring you back on eventually for sure. Might not be your back-to-back episode thing, but eventually we're definitely going to have you back on, and we're going to dive more deep into different calls and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. And next time we'll try to pick an actual like good in-depth topic of conversation instead of something so broad, because I know I like to ramble.
So, absolutely. Well, again, I really appreciate you coming on, Brian. I want to thank all my listeners for tuning in again, and we're going to sign it off. So until next time, keep chasing that experience.
Thanks for tuning in
Thanks
to
a lot,
another
Brad.
killer episode on Paddle and Fin. Don't forget to go check out our website at paddle_and fin.com. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel at Paddle and Fin. If you got a question, comment, want to hear from a future guest on a future episode, feel free to email us at paddle_and fin@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Paddle and Fin on Facebook and Instagram. Shout out to our show supporters, Angler. The Angler button and app just makes for a better time on the water and creates a virtual logbook for every fishing outing out on the water. Shout out to Rocktown Adventures, located in northern Illinois, for all your kayaking, camping, and hiking needs. Shout out to Jigmasters Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to jigmasters.com